Jason Ward stood near the edge of the grand hall, feeling nervous. He was the only human inside the beautiful, glowing room. Around him, tall and graceful aliens moved like wind through flowers. Their skin shimmered with soft colors and their eyes sparkled like stars. This was the Unity Gala, a special event held once every 10 years on the planet Varela. Varela was home to the Varelans, one of the oldest and most peaceful alien races in the galaxy. They were known for their elegance, deep thoughts, and quiet traditions. Humans had only recently joined the Galactic Assembly, and Jason was chosen as Earth's observer. He felt small in his simple black suit, watching beings from dozens of planets laugh, talk, and float gently across the glowing dance floor. He had never seen such beauty before. Still, Jason couldn't help but feel like he didn't belong. A soft voice behind him said, "You are not dancing." Jason turned. Standing in front of him was Queen Ilari of Varela. She wore a long teal-blue gown that seemed to flow like water. Her eyes were calm and deep like a quiet ocean. Jason blinked in surprise. I didn't know I was supposed to." The Queen tilted her head, curious. "Every guest is welcome to dance at the Unity Gala, but I have not danced yet either." She held out her hand. "Would you dance with me, Jason of Earth?" The entire hall became silent. Aliens from many species turned their heads. Even the music seemed to pause. No one had ever seen Queen Ilari ask someone to dance, especially not a human. Jason's heart beat faster. He looked around, then back, at the Queen. He smiled nervously and took her hand. "I'd be honored." The music began again, soft and slow. As Jason and Ilari stepped onto the center of the floor, the white tiles beneath their feet started to glow with a soft golden light. The light followed their movements. Ilari moved gracefully, and Jason tried his best to follow. He wasn't a great dancer, but he focused on her rhythm. Soon, they moved in harmony. The other guests watched closely. No one spoke. Then something strange happened. As Jason spun with the Queen, he felt a warm sensation in his mind. Suddenly, he saw images, not in the room, but in his thoughts. He saw a child running across a green field, a woman singing in a quiet room, a city covered in snow. They were memories, his memories. But he wasn't remembering them alone. Ilari was seeing them too. Jason gasped softly. "What's happening?" The Queen looked into his eyes. "The ceremonial dance. It connects two minds. Emotions and memories are shared through movement and light." Jason saw more memories. His first day at school, the time he built a treehouse with his father, the moment he left Earth for this mission. He also saw pain. His mother's illness, the loneliness in space, the pressure of being Earth's only voice here. He looked at Ilari. Her eyes were wide. She was seeing everything. Then Jason began to see her memories too. He saw a quiet planet full of singing trees and silver skies. He saw Ilari as a young girl, walking alone in a large, silent palace. He felt her sadness. How she had to smile every day, even when she felt empty inside. Ilari's people lived in peace, but they had forgotten emotion. They were becoming too logical, too quiet. She had danced with Jason, hoping to feel something real again. Their dance slowed. The lights under their feet faded. The music ended. The room stayed quiet for a moment, as if no one dared to speak. Then, gently, the Queen smiled. "Thank you, Jason of Earth. That was beautiful." Jason breathed out, still feeling the warmth of shared memories. I didn't know it would be like that." Ilari nodded. "Neither did I." One of the Virilan council members stepped forward. "Your Majesty, was that truly the ceremonial dance?" Ilari turned to the crowd. "Yes. And it showed me something I have not seen in years." Jason stepped back, feeling unsure. But many of the aliens were looking at him differently now. Not as a stranger, but with curiosity and maybe even respect. Later, Jason stood on a balcony overlooking the shining city of Virella. The stars above looked closer here. He heard soft footsteps. Queen Hilary joined him. "I must ask you something," she said. Jason turned to her. "Of course. Would you visit the palace tomorrow?" she asked. "There is more I wish to understand. About humans. About you." Jason nodded slowly. "Yes, Your Majesty. I'll be there." She smiled again, and this time her smile was real, warm, and filled with quiet joy. As she walked away, Jason looked up at the stars again. He didn't know why he was chosen, or what would happen next. But something had changed that night, and deep in his heart he knew. This was only the beginning. Jason arrived at the royal palace the next morning. A silver sky stretched above the peaceful city, and soft music played from crystal towers. Virella felt like a dream, quiet and calm, yet full of strange beauty. He was nervous, but curious. Why? Had the queen asked him to come? What did she see during the dance? What did she want to learn? A gentle guide led him through shining halls made of smooth stone and glowing plants. Jason walked past quiet fountains and walls that seemed to sing. Finally, he entered a round room full of soft blue light. Queen Hilary stood at the center, waiting. She wore a different gown today, light silver with soft green patterns. Her hair floated around her shoulders like silk in the wind. "You came?" she said, smiling. Jason nodded. "Of course. I wanted to." Hilary walked toward him. "Do you still remember the dance?" Jason smiled. "I don't think I'll ever forget it." She looked down for a moment. "I saw your memories. I felt your emotions. They were full of life, full of meaning." "And they were very different from what I know." Jason nodded slowly. "I saw yours too. They were quiet, but also lonely." Hilary's eyes softened. "That is true. Our people live in peace, but something is missing. We are forgetting how to feel deeply. We don't laugh or cry like we used to long ago." Jason listened carefully. "Why?" The queen turned and walked toward a glowing wall. A soft image appeared. An old Virellan city full of color and dance. "Many years ago," she said, "our people were full of emotion, but emotions brought confusion. Some were lost in sadness. Others chased joy without thinking. So we chose silence, stillness, and logic. It brought peace, but also emptiness." Jason stepped beside her. "But feelings are part of being alive. They guide us. Even the sad ones teach us something." Hilary looked at him. "That is why I danced with you. I wanted to remember. I wanted to feel again." She led him to a quiet corner of the room. There, a soft blue chair formed from the floor. Jason sat, and Hilary sat across from him. "Tell me," she said gently, "how do humans handle emotions? How do you live with so many?" Jason thought for a moment. "It's not always easy. Sometimes people cry. Sometimes they get scared or confused. But we write stories. We sing songs. We talk to each other. We share how we feel." He smiled. "Sometimes we just sit with someone in silence. That helps too." Hilary closed her eyes and listened. "On Virella, we don't share feelings in words anymore, only through dance or in dreams." Jason looked curious. "But isn't that hard? To feel something and not speak it?" She opened her eyes. "It is. That is why I need help. I want to learn. And maybe I want my people to learn again too." Jason leaned forward. "Then maybe we can help each other. You can show me Virellan ways. I can share how humans feel things through stories, music, and more." Hilary smiled slowly. Would you stay at the palace for some time, Jason of Earth? Not as a guest, but as a guide? Jason paused. The offer felt big, but something inside him said yes. I would be honored, he replied. Just then, a small, soft bell rang. Hilary stood. It is time for the evening gathering. Would you join me? Jason walked beside her through long, quiet halls. As they moved, he noticed how virelans around them stared at him, not in fear or dislike, but in wonder. They had seen the dance too. Word had spread. The gathering took place in a glass dome garden filled with floating lights. Soft music played from wind chimes that hung in the air. Virelans sat on smooth stones, listening to silent music. Their eyes were closed. They did not speak. Jason sat beside Hilary. What happens here? We call it the Dream Circle, she said. Here, we remember stories from long ago. But no words are spoken, only memories passed through feeling. Jason looked around. Do you think I could tell a story? Out loud? Hilary looked thoughtful. It is not our way, but maybe we need something new. She stood and gently raised her hand. The music stopped. The lights dimmed. This is Jason of Earth, she said. He wishes to share something with us, a human story. I invite you to listen with open hearts. Jason stood. His hands trembled slightly. He took a breath. He began with a simple story about a boy and his dog, about a stormy night and how they found safety in an old barn, about fear, warmth, and friendship. As he spoke, he saw the virelans' faces change. Some blinked slowly, others leaned closer. A young one smiled for the first time. When Jason finished, there was silence. Then one virelan softly touched their chest, a sign of deep feeling. More followed. Hilary looked at Jason with shining eyes. They felt it. Your words reached them. Jason sat down beside her, heart full. Then it's a start. That night, back in his guest room, Jason looked out the window at the twin moons of Varela. Something had changed, not just in him, but in the world around him. He had come as a quiet guest from a faraway world. Now he was becoming a bridge between hearts. Jason woke up to the sound of soft singing winds. The royal guest room was filled with a peaceful blue glow. Outside the wide glass windows, the sky of Varela shined with calm morning light. Birds with long silver feathers flew quietly through the air. It had been only 2 days since the queen danced with him, but everything already felt different. A young virelan named Sira came to guide him. She wore a soft green robe and spoke with a gentle voice. Her Majesty is waiting for you. In the Garden of Silence, she said. Jason followed her through smooth stone hallways. Along the way, he saw murals on the walls, paintings of Varelan history. Most showed people standing still under stars or meditating beside rivers. Finally, they reached a large round gate. When it opened, Jason stepped into a wide garden full of glowing plants. The air felt warm and light. Strange blue trees stood quietly, their leaves moving slowly in the wind as if breathing. In the center of the garden stood Queen Hilary. She was barefoot, her feet touching a circle of soft white sand. Her gown was simple today, light gray with green threads. She looked peaceful, like part of the garden itself. Welcome, she said, her voice calm. This is our most sacred place. We call it the Garden of Silence. Jason stepped closer. It's beautiful, so quiet. I feel like I shouldn't speak. Hilary nodded. That is the purpose. Here, we come to listen to ourselves, to feel the things that words cannot hold. They walked side by side through the garden. Flowers opened as they passed. The air smelled sweet and fresh. There is something I wish to share with you, Ilari said, something I've never told any visitor, not even the assembly. Jason listened carefully. Our people are changing, she said. Slowly we are losing our emotions. We no longer cry. We no longer laugh. We meditate. We speak calmly, but inside, many feel empty. Jason looked surprised. But why? For thousands of years, we chose harmony over chaos, logic over feelings. It gave us peace. But now even I feel alone. The dance with you woke something I thought was gone. Jason thought for a moment. I've met humans who try to hide their feelings too. But feelings always find a way out. Through music or art or just talking. Ilari stopped near a glowing tree. That is why I brought you here. I want your help. I want to bring emotion back to my people, but not through chaos, through connection. Jason looked around the garden. Maybe we can start here. Ilari turned to him. Would you help me create a space? A place where my people can feel again? A new way, using both your human ways and our traditions? Jason smiled. I'd love that. Over the next few days, Jason worked with Ilari in the garden. They set up small spaces where Viralans could sit, draw, write, or listen to stories. Jason called it the memory circle. He placed small stones and leaves on the ground, each one representing a different feeling. Joy was a yellow stone. Sadness was a blue leaf. Hope was a silver feather. Each evening, a few Virelans came to the garden. Jason shared a short human story. Some stories were happy. Others were quiet and thoughtful. After the stories, the Virelans placed stones or leaves that matched what they felt. It was simple, but powerful. One night, a young Virelan named Tali came forward after a story. I saw my brother in your words, she said softly. He used to sing. I forgot how it made me feel. Jason handed her a silver feather. She smiled and placed it beside the fire. Ilari watched all of this with quiet joy. She had never seen her people express themselves like this. But not everyone was pleased. High Elder Nirel, an older Virelan from the council, stood in the shadows of the garden. His long silver robe flowed behind him as he walked away silently. Later that night, in a private meeting with the council, Nirel spoke. The Queen is bringing change, he said. Emotions are dangerous. They bring imbalance. This human, he speaks of feelings as if they are light. But light can also burn. Some council members nodded. Others looked uncertain. Back in the garden, Jason and Ilari sat by a small pond. Some of your people are not ready, Jason said softly. Ilari nodded. I know. But hearts do not open all at once. It begins with a crack. Then a light shines through. Jason smiled. You speak like a poet. She looked at him. Maybe I was, long ago. Jason threw a small pebble into the pond. On Earth, we say change starts small, like a ripple. And we say, Ilari replied, the quietest wind can move the tallest tree. They looked at each other and laughed gently. The garden, once silent, now held the soft sound of two different worlds beginning to grow together. Far above, the stars of Virella shined quietly. But something new had started. A dance not of feet, but of minds and hearts, and the garden listened. Each day on Virella felt like a quiet sunrise to Jason. The palace had become more than just a place to stay. It had become a place of learning, laughter, and something that felt like home. After the success of the memory circle in the garden, of silence, Queen Ilari gave Jason a new role. He was no longer just Earth's observer. Now, he was a teacher of emotion. Virelans began to visit the garden in small groups. They were curious, gentle, and open to learning. They had never been taught how to express emotions, only how to control them. For centuries, they had been told to keep everything inside. Jason used simple things to teach. He brought music from Earth. A soft melody played on a small device he carried. When he played a human piano song, the Virelans sat still, listening deeply. One young Virelan named Kima closed her eyes and whispered, "It feels like the sound is touching my heart." Jason smiled. That's what music is meant to do. He also showed them how to paint feelings. He gave them colors and soft brushes and said, "Don't paint what you see, paint what you feel." At first, the Virelans hesitated, but slowly, colors appeared. Soft greens for peace, deep blues for sadness, warm orange for joy. One young artist painted a glowing swirl of pink and gold and named it Curiosity. Even Queen Ilari joined one evening. She painted a quiet, silver tree standing in the wind. "It's me," she said softly. "Still standing, but beginning to move." Jason nodded. "It's beautiful." The Queen smiled. "You helped me find the wind." Each night, Jason shared human stories under the stars. Some were about love, some were about loss, some were funny stories from Earth, simple tales of mistakes and laughter. The Virelans began to smile more and even laugh softly. It was not loud laughter, but it was real. The palace started to feel alive. But not everyone was happy. High Elder. Nirel and some of the council members believed Jason's teachings were dangerous. "He brings chaos with his colors and songs," Nirel said in a private meeting. "Our people need balance, not noise," another elder agreed. "The young ones are acting strangely. They ask too many questions. They feel too much." But others on the council had seen the change too. They saw young Virelans talking with more light in their eyes. They saw the Queen herself becoming more open, more alive. Still, the council was divided. Meanwhile, Jason and Ilari spent more time together. Their friendship grew strong. They shared long walks in the garden, told stories to each other, and sat quietly, watching the stars. One evening, Jason brought out an earth instrument, a small wooden flute. "Would you like to try?" he asked. Ilari took the flute carefully. She pressed it to her lips and made a soft sound, gentle and high like the wind. Jason clapped quietly. "That was beautiful." Ilari laughed. It felt strange, but right. She handed the flute back and looked at him. "Jason, do you ever miss your home?" Jason thought for a moment. "Sometimes. I miss the sky, the food, my sister's jokes. But here, I feel like I'm doing something that matters, and I'm not alone." Ilari looked down. "You have given us more than you know." That same night, Jason had an idea. "Let's create a festival of feeling," he said. "A day where all Virelans can share art, music, and stories freely." Ilari looked thoughtful. "That has never been done before. Our festivals are silent, made of stillness and light." Jason smiled. "Then maybe it's time for a new tradition." Ilari agreed. Together, they began to plan. Jason helped design spaces where music could be played, paintings could be shown, and even dancing could happen. He taught a group of Virelans a simple human dance, slow, graceful steps with hand movements. At first it was awkward, but soon laughter filled the air as Virelans tried their best. Even the elders who visited the garden watched with quiet curiosity. One child painted a picture of Jason and Ilari dancing under a tree. She handed it to the Queen shyly. "For you," she said. Ilari smiled and placed the painting in the palace hall for everyone to see. "Thank you," she said. "It will remind us that feeling is not weakness. It is light." But trouble was coming. High Elder Nirel called an emergency council meeting. He stood in front of the elders and spoke with a deep voice. This human is changing us, he said. Too quickly, too freely. We must test him. Another elder asked, What do you mean? A public challenge, Nirel said. A test of Virilan values. Let us see if this human understands who we are before he teaches more. The council agreed. A message was sent to the queen. Jason was to take part in the challenge of stillness, an ancient Virilan test of peace and balance. If he failed, he would no longer be allowed to teach. Jason heard the news with surprise. A test? He asked. Alari nodded softly. It is a tradition. A day of silence and stillness in the garden. If you can pass it, you will earn the right to continue. If not, Jason nodded slowly. Then I'll do it. Alari looked at him, worried. Are you sure? Jason smiled gently. I may be human, but I've learned to listen to silence too. She reached out and touched his hand. Then may the stillness speak for you. The challenge would begin at sunrise. And in the garden where the first memories were shared, Jason would face his greatest lesson yet, not with words, but with silence. The morning sky of Varela turned a soft silver as the sun rose over the royal garden. The air was quiet. Even the singing birds did not make a sound today. Jason stood near the entrance of the Garden of Silence, dressed in a plain white robe, given to him by the palace. He felt calm, but a little nervous too. All around the garden, Virelans had gathered, elders, scholars, artists, even children. They stood quietly among the glowing trees, watching with serious eyes. High Elder Nirel stood near the back, arms folded, face unreadable. Queen Alari stood beside Jason. Are you ready? She asked softly. Jason nodded. As ready as I can be. This challenge is not about winning, she said. It is about listening. To silence, to time, to your own heart. Jason smiled. Then maybe it's perfect for me. She stepped back, and the garden lights dimmed slightly. The test had begun. Jason stepped into the center of the garden and sat down on the white sand. He crossed his legs and placed his hands on his knees. His eyes slowly closed. The rule was simple. Remain completely still and silent for one full Virelan day, which was equal to almost 10 hours on Earth. For Virelans who were trained in meditation from childhood, it was a deep part of their tradition. But for a human, it was difficult. At first, Jason focused on his breathing. In, out, calm, quiet. He remembered what Alari had taught him. How to feel the air, how to become one with the space. In the first hour, his legs began to feel a little sore. He shifted slightly, then reminded himself to stay still. He took a deep breath and focused again. The garden was beautiful. The trees moved softly in the wind. Light passed through the leaves in gentle patterns. He let the colors fill his mind. By the third hour, small thoughts began to distract him. What if I fail? What if they send me home? Will Alari be disappointed? Jason pushed those thoughts away. He remembered Earth. He remembered sitting with his sister under a tree, both of them quiet, watching clouds. He smiled gently. That memory helped. A soft breeze moved through the garden. Flowers opened and closed like they were breathing. The watchers remained still. Time passed slowly. By the 5th hour, Jason's back ached. His shoulders hurt. He wanted to move, but instead, he did something else. He began to hum softly in his mind, not out loud, only inside his thoughts. The melody was the same one he and Ilari had danced to at the Unity Gala. It gave him strength. He imagined the music flowing through the garden like water. Though he could not speak, his spirit was singing. Some Virelans watching him began to notice the soft change in the air. Even without sound or movement, Jason was sharing a feeling. Calm, gentle peace. By the 7th hour, the wind picked up, slightly. A few dry leaves landed on Jason's shoulder, but he did not move. His eyes remained closed. His breathing was steady. In his heart, he was still dancing. Queen Alari watched him from the side of the garden. Her eyes were full of emotion. This human, she whispered to herself, is teaching us without a single word. Finally, as the 10th hour began, the final bell rang, a soft chime that echoed through the garden like a drop of water in a still pond. Jason slowly opened his eyes. He had done it. The watchers stayed silent, waiting for the council to respond. High Elder Nerel stepped forward. His voice was deep and clear. "Jason of Earth, you have completed the challenge of stillness. You did not speak, you did not move, but more than that, you shared something unseen." He paused. "In all my years, I have not felt peace like this in the garden. Not from one of our own, not even from a trained master." The crowd remained quiet. Queen Alari stepped forward now. "Jason did not just complete the challenge," she said. "He made it alive again. He showed us that silence can speak and stillness can feel. He is not just a teacher, he is a bridge." One by one, Virelans began to touch their hands to their hearts. A silent sign of deep respect. Even Elder Nerel gave a slow nod. "You may continue your teachings," he said. "The council accepts you." Jason stood carefully, stretching his tired legs. He looked around and saw eyes shining with quiet joy. He smiled. "Thank you." That evening, back in the garden, Jason sat with Alari by a small fire. "You were amazing," she said softly. "I was just quiet," he answered, smiling. "Sometimes," she said, "quiet is louder than words." Jason looked up at the stars. "So what now?" Alari turned to him. "Now we prepare for the festival, together." The first festival of feeling was only days away. The garden would be full of light, sound, stories, and for the first time in Virelan history, laughter, and deep in the heart of it all, a human and a queen were building something no one had expected, not with power, not with technology, but with emotion. And the world of Virella was changing, slowly, beautifully, and forever. The sun rose over the crystal towers of Virella, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and gold. The palace grounds were no longer quiet and still as before. The air now carried the sound of music, laughter, and soft voices sharing stories. The first ever festival of feeling was only one day away. Jason walked through the garden with Queen Alari beside him. Around them, Virelans of all ages worked together, hanging glowing lights between trees, placing stones with painted symbols on the ground, and setting up spaces for music, painting, and storytelling. "This place feels alive," Jason said. Smiling, Alari nodded. "It hasn't felt like this in many years. Our people are waking up." Jason paused near the center of the garden where a wide platform had been built. "And you're sure the council will allow this?" Alari looked thoughtful. "They agreed to let it happen after your stillness challenge, but not all of them believe it should continue." Jason looked up. "Even now?" "Elder Nerel and a few others still fear change," she said. "But the people are speaking, and it is time we listened." Jason walked to a large wall made of smooth white stone. This was the Wall of Expression, a new part of the festival. Here, Virelans could draw, write, or mark their feelings. Already, many had added to it. Simple drawings of stars, smiling faces, swirling colors, or short phrases like, "Today I felt joy. I remember my brother's laugh. Hope feels warm." Jason touched one of the painted stars. "This wall says more than 100 speeches," Later that evening, a soft light glowed across the garden as the stars began to shine. Jason sat on a bench preparing a story for tomorrow's opening. He looked up when he heard footsteps. It was Tali, the young Viralan artist who had once drawn him and Ilari dancing. She held a new painting. It showed many Virelans and humans dancing together under a tree, their hands touching light in the air. "For the festival," she said softly. Jason took the painting and smiled. "This is beautiful. Thank you." Tali looked around. "Do you think it will last? The joy?" Jason paused. "If we keep choosing to share it, yes, it can grow, but not far away, in a high chamber of the palace." A quiet meeting was taking place. Elder Nyril stood before a group of council members. "Tomorrow's festival is not a celebration. It is a turning point," he said. "The Queen is reshaping our traditions with this human's ideas. If we lose our stillness, we may never get it back." One counselor asked, "But have you not seen the change in the people? They smile, they create, they connect." Nirel replied, "But at what cost? If feelings grow wild, peace will fade." Another elder remained quiet but thoughtful. "Perhaps peace does not only live in silence, perhaps it can sing too." Nirel did not answer. The next day arrived. The garden glowed with soft light as Virelans and a few visiting humans gathered. Music from Earth played gently from floating speakers. The air smelled of sweet blossoms and fresh morning mist. Queen Ilari walked to the center platform. Jason stood beside her. She raised her hand, and the garden fell silent. "For centuries," she said, "we have lived in harmony through quiet and calm. But we forgot something along the way. We forgot how to feel together." She looked at Jason. "This human did not teach us to break our traditions. He reminded us that peace also lives in connection." The crowd listened, eyes wide. "Today," Ilari continued, "we celebrate our feelings, not as chaos but as colors, not as weakness but as light." She stepped back, and Jason began his story. It was a simple tale about a boy on Earth who planted a tree after his grandmother passed away. The boy visited the tree every day, shared his thoughts with it, and watched it grow. In time, the tree became strong, and so did the boy. As Jason spoke, many Virelans felt something deep inside. Some placed hands on their hearts. Others closed their eyes. Then the music began. The same melody Jason had danced to with the Queen weeks ago, but this time it was played by both humans and Virelans on new instruments made together. People began to dance, not just Ilari and Jason, but children, elders, artists, and visitors. It was slow, graceful, and full of emotion. Even Elder Nirel stood at the edge of the crowd, watching. Beside him, a young Virelan girl gently held her father's hand. "Father," she whispered, "can we dance too?" Nirel looked at her. Her eyes were bright with hope. Slowly, he gave a small nod. She pulled him toward the platform. For the first time in many years, Elder Nirel stepped forward, not as a leader, but as someone willing to feel. As the music played and the lights danced through the trees, Queen Ilari whispered to Jason, "Do you see what you've helped build?" Jason looked at the crowd. "It's not just me. It's all of us, choosing to feel together." The night ended with the lighting of a new symbol, a floating crystal shaped like a heart and star combined. It would remain in the garden forever, glowing with the memory of this day. It was named the Light of Understanding, and as the stars of Varela sparkled above, Jason knew this world would never be the same. A soft wind passed through the trees of the Virelan Palace garden. The festival of feeling had ended, but the echoes of music and laughter still lived in the air. The garden, once quiet and still, now held a new energy, gentle, hopeful, and alive. Jason stood beside the wall of expression. reading the newest drawings and words left by the people. He smiled as he saw a small sketch of two hands touching, one human and one viralan. Under it were three simple words. "We feel together." Queen Ilari walked toward him, her steps light. She wore no crown today, only a soft robe that moved, like waves. "Jason," she said kindly, "the people keep asking about you. They call you the first dancer." Jason chuckled. "That's better than the human who couldn't stay still." They both laughed. Ilari looked up at the floating crystal heart above the garden. "Do you know what surprises me the most?" "What?" Jason asked. That one small moment, a single dance, could change so much. Jason thought about it. Sometimes it only takes one step to begin a new path. Ilari nodded. And now, the real path begins. They walked through the garden, passing small groups of virelans drawing together, painting, telling stories, and even practicing calm dances with soft music. These were no longer strange activities. They had become part of daily life. But there were still questions. "What happens next?" Ilari asked. "Our world is changing, and not everyone is ready." Jason looked around. "Change always feels strange at first, but this world is special. You didn't force anyone. You simply invited them to try." Ilari turned to him. "And they chose." Later that day, Queen Ilari called a meeting in the Great Hall. The council, Virelan citizens, and a few human visitors gathered to hear her speak. "This is not the end of our journey," she said. "It is the beginning. For centuries, we guarded our peace through stillness, but peace can also live in movement, in feeling, and in shared moments." She paused. "We are not replacing our traditions. We are adding to them, opening new doors, letting light in." Elder Narelle stood slowly. "And what of those who wish to remain as we were?" Ilari bowed her head respectfully. "They are free to do so. We do not break stillness. We give space for expression. Both can live together." A quiet voice from the back spoke up. It was Tali, the young artist. "I never knew how heavy silence was until I learned to speak with color. Now I feel lighter." Others nodded. Jason stepped forward. "You taught me something important too, that listening is not the same as waiting to speak. That silence, when chosen, can also be full of meaning." There was silence now in the hall, not from fear, but from deep thought. Then, something unexpected happened. A young Viralan musician stood up. She held a small, glowing instrument made from crystal and wood. She strummed it gently, and the sound filled the room like morning light. She began to sing. It was the first public song sung in the Great Hall in hundreds of years. The words were simple and soft. "One voice, one step, one light we share. Across the stars, through open air, we hold the stillness, but not alone, for feeling too can be our home." Tears filled the eyes of many. No one stopped her. When the song ended, there was no applause, only quiet, peaceful understanding. From that day forward, a new time began in Virela. They called it the Era of Harmony. New centers were built where Virelans and humans could explore feelings through art, sound, and story. Children learned not just the history of their planet, but also how to express emotions with care and honesty. The wall of expression grew each week, and more people came to add their thoughts, dreams, and memories. Jason remained in Virela for several months. He taught storytelling and shared songs from Earth. He also learned from the Virelans how to listen deeply, how to find peace in small things, and how silence could sometimes say more than words. One morning, he stood with Ilari near the garden. Again. "I think," Jason said slowly, "it's time for me to go." Ilari looked at him with kind eyes. "You've given us much, Jason." But Earth is your home. Jason nodded. There are people back home who need to hear this story. Maybe there are others out there, other planets, waiting to take their first step too. She smiled. Will you come back one day? Jason looked at the sky. I think I'll always carry Varela with me. He reached out his hand. Ilari placed hers in his, and together they danced, one last time under the glowing trees and the floating crystal heart. It was slow, it was gentle, it was full of feeling. When the dance ended, Jason stepped back. Thank you, Ilari, for everything. No, she said softly. Thank you for showing us how to feel again. Jason left Varela that afternoon aboard a peaceful shuttle, carrying only a small bag and a sketch Tali had given him. It showed two dancers beneath stars, one human, one Varelan. As his ship lifted into the sky, the people below waved. And Jason waved back, because even though the stars were wide and endless, something had changed inside him. He had come as a stranger. He left as a friend. And somewhere, on a quiet world filled with music, memory, and light, his first dance still echoed forever.